Well, this makes up for yesterday, doesn't it?
It certainly does. It certainly does.
It's our first emergency podcast.
About time, right?
It is about time. Wasn't expecting that last night. I don't think anybody was really expecting it last night, but
No, no.
yeah, obviously didn't bring out an episode yesterday, but that's okay. We got an emergency one today just for you guys. A lot of it happened late last. It sucks because it's like East Coast. Like as much as I wanted to jump on last night, it was like 11:30, and I'm like dead.
Same.
So I figured, whatever,
Same.
this can wait till the morning. It's fine. So a lot of our
Yeah.
East Coasters are kind of getting reaction here this morning. Unless you were up late last night, like some psychos. But man, what a blockbuster we had yesterday.
Yeah.
We kind of said that the Rantanen one was the domino, and all of a sudden it came into one huge swift motion. So let's just jump right into it. So
I just want to say really quickly, by the way, good win for the Flames last night, 4-1 over Anaheim.
100%. We'll talk about that.
I was wondering, are we just going to just talk about the trade? Are we not going to talk about last night's game? Blah blah blah. It's like I didn't know where we were.
Last night's game, it wasn't anything special. Down, but they were kind of doing poo poo against the Ducks a little bit early on, right? And then all of a sudden,
they got their act together.
They kind of got it together. Coronado scores a hat trick, first career hat trick.
Maybe the trade whispers got them going a little bit. Maybe
maybe it did. It kind of sparked something. Maybe who knows? But the guys said it last night. It was very strange. But Huska commended them yesterday for getting through that game despite everything that kind of happened. So let's break this down properly. So let's start with how it started. How did this happen? Right. It started with Kuzmenko being a late scratch, right? Now, there was no early indications of him being dealt. But as time went on throughout the night, as the game was getting started, it became clear that Conroy and crew was getting ready to deal Kuzmenko. That's all we knew at the time, right?
Yep.
We didn't know who it was from. We didn't know where it was coming from. But then we started hearing that Morgan Frost is being pulled from Philadelphia, right? And now all of a sudden there's a link, right? And then Pelletier gets pulled after I think it was the first period, if I'm not mistaken. So he gets pulled, right? And now all of a sudden everybody's going, okay, we got something going on here,
something
right?
Happened.
And it led to this. All of it just led to this. So Morgan Frost and Joel Farabee, a part of this deal, they're heading to Calgary. Andrei Kuzmenko, Jacob Pelletier, the Flames' second-round pick. They have 2 picks this year in the second round. 1 pick goes to Philadelphia this year's draft, and 2028 7th-round pick. Neil, instant reaction.
I mean, clearly the Flyers wanted to change something, right? You look at their last 2 games, just their last 2 games. I don't know when this really started in terms of talking between Conroy and the Flyers, but obviously you get shellacked by the Devils on Wednesday, 5-0, and then you get shut out again last night against the Islanders at home. Did that play a part in this happening? Maybe, maybe not. I also saw that Michkov and Tortorella had a lot of shouting matches. So things are not great in Philadelphia right now. But this trade came as a shocker to me because of the fact that of all the players involved, Kuzmenko was the only one that you and I have talked about at times he could be dealt. Now, he was playing pretty well up until he got dealt, which
for a few games,
which might have made him much more attractive to someone like the Flyers. Maybe.
Assuming that he gets a fresh start and maybe rejuvenates a little bit.
Correct. Sure. And I think you're going to end up seeing him on their top 6 moving forward. Because you're losing Frost, you're losing Farabee, you're going to probably put Kuzmenko in a top 6 role. I don't know what Tortorella is going to want to do with that. But I give Craig Conroy so much props for this because he turned a guy in Kuzmenko who it's on the fence anyway as to whether or not the Flames are going to keep him.
We talked about it, man. He could have been gone for a 5th or a 6th.
Nope. He went for Morgan Frost, Joel Farabee. And you know what's great about this trade more than anything, Kyle, is this. Not only are you making a move to help the team now, you're helping the team moving forward. That's the way that I look at this deal. So for Craig Conroy to fill some needs as well, I mean, job well done. Job freaking well done. And I hope that they can keep Frost and Farabee moving forward. And at least for them, in the positive standpoint, Frost and Farabee come over to a team that's much closer to a playoff spot than the Flyers are. Which, granted, I mean, the East is still wide open, but
So much traffic.
there's so
So
much
much.
traffic. We're not going to know how the East shapes up until probably the last day of the season. If we're
Like the week or two left, like we're not
week or
going to
two
know.
left, we'll have a fair assessment as to where it goes. But wow, I mean, Frank's. I think Sarah Valley was the first one that dropped it. I think he dropped it.
Sarah Valley and Frege was on it pretty
Right.
good last night. Frege, I give him credit. He was on it last night.
He was on it, and I mean,
Yeah.
we'll get into trade grades in a
How do
minute,
you
but
feel? How do you feel about Jacob Pelletier being involved in this going the other way?
I'm not.
Don't break. So okay, hold on.
Yeah,
Before you start, okay, hold on a second. Hold on.
mhm,
I saw it all over social media last night, right? And I'm sure you probably saw it too, where
yeah,
oh, Peltier's this great guy. No, we can't lose him. He brings the vibes, the smooches, and all that. Fuck that for a second. This is why some of these Flames fans, right? Thank fucking God they're not general managers, right? Because there's too much emotion being brought into this. And look, yes, granted, he had good relationships with Coronado and Huberdeau. He's an energetic kid who was kind of starting to turn the corner a little bit. And probably one of the bigger reasons why he's involved in this, right?
sure.
In the long-term grand scheme of things, he was put on waivers months ago, right? And he was slowly getting juggled around the lineup a little bit. And at best, he was playing bottom 6 minutes, right? Yeah. So, listen, I hope nothing for the best for Jacob. He's a great kid, right? Mm-hmm. And I hope that he can crack a roster, right? The kid was on a 1-year, 2-way deal, right? That's why they were able to fluctuate with him for the year, right? Minus finally going to get him through waivers, which, by the way, nobody picked him up, right?
Nobody did, yeah.
So the ceiling for him is what you want to see out of Joel Farabee, hence him coming the other way, right?
Yeah.
Looking at him, I'm going to bring up Puckpedia afterwards because we'll really dive into it. But with Farabee, like he was a 2018 first-round pick, 14th overall, right? Who, fair enough, he's having a down year. Frost, fair enough, he's having a down year. So is everybody else in Philadelphia, right? They needed a fresh start because in my eyes, Tortorella was just grinding this goddamn team down, right? So I'll bring up Puckpedia here in a second. In totality, to get those two, not only that, but to have control. Like you have Farabee now long term. You have control of Morgan Frost because he's an RFA. He's not a UFA coming up, right?
He's an RFA,
so you have control of Morgan Frost, right? You essentially swap contracts with Kuzmenko and Farabee. That was dead even. Okay, fair. You lose Pelletier in the process. I don't know what his ceiling is going to be. And to only lose a second-round pick in a draft where you only had two second-round picks, you still keep your first, right, for the most part, which you could look at it as second. Some people do. You never know. You get rid of one second-round pick. You protect the future assets, and you acquire these two young kids who are 24, 25, entering their prime, who are proven 20-goal scorers. It's a fucking phenomenal job by Craig Conroy. I don't think I quite understand how they got this done. And I'm trying to, and maybe you can touch on this before I go over to Puckpedia and we'll break this down further.
Sure.
I'm trying to understand this further from the Flyers' perspective. Like, are you just trying to free up cap space? Like, have you really lost that much faith in Farabee and Frost? Like, are you hoping that Kuzmenko gets something back? Like, okay, you get a second-round pick, and maybe this works with Pelletier being involved in this system. Who knows? Like, are those some of the things that the Flyers are looking at?
The Flyers have been very confusing for a lot of years now in terms of like what their overall direction is. I thought when Daniel Briere became the GM and president, I thought that they were going to really, really implement like a full-on rebuild, which made sense. They drafted Michkov, they drafted Cutter Gauthier, and obviously we know how that went down. Which, by the way, I think getting Jamie Drysdale for that was actually a really good move for the
By the
Flyers.
way, clip two, Cutter Gauthier was a non-factor last night.
Yeah, oh yeah, 100%, 100%. He's a non-factor in a lot of games, but then again, the Ducks are not very good, so it's kind of hard to really say if he's not good or not. Anyway, here's the problem: the Flyers. I know that people like Torts for his, energy and his yelling at the refs. Here's the problem, though. He's not good if you're trying to properly rebuild a team because he's going to get his guys to play hard. And I've seen them play the Devils 3 times already this year. First 2 games against the Devils, they grinded it out. The Devils just had no energy, and even though the Flyers don't have as much talent as the Devils, it didn't matter. They hustled. They went out there and gave it 110% and earned both of those wins. Things changed in the 3rd game this past week, which I was at. The Devils had the energy. They started being physical. They started pushing back. And then when they got opportunities, they took advantage of it. And the Flyers just couldn't, get going. And the same thing happened again against the Islanders, who, by the way, now are all of a sudden in talks about making the freaking playoffs the way that they've been playing. I think they've won 6 in a row now, or 5. They've
Something like that.
They've been playing very well.
Yeah.
But here's the thing with the Flyers. I think that this is a move that leaned more towards 2 things. 1, cap space, and 2, team fit. And that's where my problem is. I think that if you had a different coach than a John Tortorella, I think Frost and Farabee would be given much more leeway to get to turn things around. Because Tortorella wants certain guys to perform at a certain level, and they're not consistently doing that, Frost and Farabee, I think that put pressure on Briere to make a move. Kuzmenko, they're baking. Let's be honest, Lean, they're baking straight on the hope that he can become a top flight goal scorer again, like we saw earlier.
Kuzmenko, right?
Yeah, Kuzmenko. Yeah.
Yeah. And also too, like, he's a UFA at the end of the year. He might not come back to Philly. He might.
Maybe they flip him.
They might, or I don't know.
They could flip him.
They could, but again, if he's going to be the centerpiece of a trade, right, which we've been talking about for the last little bit, like, what's the value there, right? Like this is clearly an overvalue because
this is an overpay.
So even if they don't trade him at the deadline, if they want to flip him, right, they come to the off season. He's a UFA. He can walk. He doesn't have to stay in Philly, right? No. Jacob Pelletier, 1-year, 2-way deal. He might not foresee a future in Philadelphia.
Maybe he'll come back to Calgary.
Who knows?
Wouldn't that be like hilarious if like one of Pelletier or Kuzmenko just like re-signs?
Well, I think I'll
Calgary.
Afterwards, because I think he's an RFA. So I think the Flyers might have a bit of a say in keeping
Pelletier.
Yeah, we'll check.
I'll look it up. Yeah, I'll bring it up.
Yeah, but I mean, like, here, why don't I do this? I'll bring up Puckpedia just so that it's a little bit easier for us to look at. But I mean, with Pelletier, like, okay, you give up that, right? Let's take a look at it here. I'll bring it up here on Puckpedia. So we look at Jacob Pelletier here.
Pelletier is an RFA. It says, yeah, he's an RFA.
He's an RFA. So there you go. So the Flyers do have control on Jacob Pelletier.
And that might be why they wanted him in the deal as well, because like they look at it as, if we can't keep Kuzmenko, at least we have somewhat control over a young Jacob Pelletier. But you asked before, like, what is his ceiling?
Yeah.
My evaluation is he's at best a top 9 forward.
Right. And look at the run. And I just want to show you, like, the runway that he's had here. He's played 60 games in the NHL. He's got 8 goals and 13 assists, right? Like that, it's nothing impressive, right? Look at the other side of the coin here with Morgan Frost.
7 assists.
The guy has more than 100 points compared to Pelletier, right? So, like, with the Flyers, like, okay, you do have control with Pelletier. You can decide what they want to do, right? If they want to keep him or they want to let him walk, whatever, they'll decide on that, right? So essentially, in my eyes, you're giving up a 2nd-round pick.
Yeah.
That 7th rounder is not even a part of this conversation.
Yeah.
That's the stupid part about all this. That's like one of those, like,
I think that was just to make the package look a little bit better.
Appetizing? I don't know. Maybe.
Might be.
So that's just it. Like it's 2 big pieces. And it's unbelievable. It's an unbelievable job by Craig Conroy, right? So, like we mentioned, the cap hit is essentially the same here with Kuzmenko making $500,000 more. You're saving a little bit there on that if you're just looking at these, right? Here's the crazy thing.
Also, the Flames just got, by the way, guys, the Flames just got a lot younger by just making this move because you have Kuzmenko at 28, Pelletier's at 23. However, Farabee's at 24, and Frost, I think, is 25, correct?
Frost is 25 years. Yeah, let me pull that down. Sorry. He is 25 years old. Yeah.
Are we on the cusp of being like the youngest, like close to being one of the youngest rosters in the NHL right now?
It's possible.
Or are we still middle of the pack?
No, we're down there. We're definitely
down.
That's
and like honestly, like I think the other thing, just something kind of funny that I noticed. Think about the amount of calls that both GMs had to make to the agents of these players, because each of these 4 players involved are represented by 4 different agents.
Right.
It's a very, I don't know. It's very.
Darren Ferris. Is Darren Ferris the agent?
Oliver Fortier, Sean Humwick, and then Daniel. The only one I've ever heard of, to be frank, is Ferris. I know I've never heard of either of these other 3 people.
Yeah. So you mentioned it though, like they get younger, right?
They do.
And just looking at the stats here, right? Kuzmenko's 140 goal a year, right? And look what he's provided, right? This was just with Vancouver, right? And look at Farabee, who was a 2018 first round pick, 383 games already played, 90 goals, 111 assists. Like, yeah, he's got a bit more of a runway here than Kuzmenko. But for Kuzmenko, this was on basically 1 season, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So we're talking a huge swing here, right? And this is also, too, like a down year for Farabee and Frost, right? So it's a change of scenery. And I think this, like the message, Craig Conroy went to the media last night, and one reporter asked a really good question. And he said, what do you want your players to take away from this? Losing a bit of, a good friend there for a lot of guys in Pelletier, losing him. What do you want to tell this team, right? And Conroy's just basically out there saying, we want to reward them by getting better, right? They've played great this year, and we want to reward them by getting better. So maybe you can provide a bit of insight more than I will, because I'm still learning here more about Farabee and more about Morgan Frost. You actually lived in Philadelphia, and you also, division rival, have probably seen these guys a fair amount of times. What do both players bring to this team?
Speed is the biggest thing that you take away from this, and I think that's what makes it great for the Flames, because I think that they've lacked a little bit of that with their team, and I think finding a way to get a little bit younger, get a little bit faster, goes a long way. Here's the thing, though, if you can go back up to just a comparison between Kuzmenko and Farabee. Here's the thing that really sticks out, and I don't know if you mentioned it, but Kuzmenko's 28, right? He's played a total of 190 games in the NHL. You go over to Farabee, he is 24. He is 4 years younger than Kuzmenko and has played in nearly 400 games already in his career. He's probably going to reach 400 during this season. I know that maybe some people might be a little concerned about, like, oh, he's played a lot. He's 24. And he's had this much success already.
Shows the confidence, right? Like,
this was simply a move for Farabee and Frost. This is an opportunity to come to a team that is young, that is developing, that is actually ahead of schedule in terms of their development, because we're right in the smack dab of a playoff spot there. And I think that there's got to be excitement, because I think with Kuzmenko in the locker room, maybe it was kind of iffy because he hadn't been really doing much, and it was like, is he really contributing? You mentioned Pelletier. Again, you can find someone that can replace Pelletier with that. Like, honestly, you could. You mentioned vibes, right? They mentioned vibes. Kevin Rooney also brings vibes, and I don't really see him on this. I really don't want him. I know
it's not like people are acting like.
Didn't he also have a milestone last night? If I'm not mistaken?
He hit 300 games last night.
300
because he came in late for Andrei Kuzmenko, and you just mentioned it too. Like, Jacob Pelletier is not the only guy. It's not like he was the glue that held this team together. You know what I mean? Like, that's the crazy part about all this.
You traded like Coronado, that's a difference. We're having
1,000%, right? Coronado he just got a hat trick last night, and he's somebody that he's a hell of a player, right?
Yeah.
And so it pissed me off last night seeing Flames fans being like, oh, like being so upset with Pelletier. He was like, oh, he was such a good guy. He gives the smooches. It's like, grow a fucking pair of balls for a second.
Well,
You know what I mean?
let's give fans like that a little bit of the benefit of the doubt. The problem is that, and this is the biggest thing that like fans talk about all the time, is trying not to get too attached to certain players.
No, you can't.
Good or bad,
You
right?
can't.
I've been a victim of this myself in my fandom. But as you get older, you realize you start to realize more that this is a business and that guys can be moved literally any second. And it's the old saying goes, Kyle, if Wayne Gretzky can get traded, then anybody can get traded.
Anybody can get traded.
So like people say, oh, Sidney Crosby's not going to get dealt ever. I wouldn't count it out. I wouldn't count it out because they say, oh, he's untouchable. If they get the right deal, you think he's untouchable? The answer is no. So like that's what I'm saying with this. The bottom line is that Craig Conroy saw an opportunity for this team to get younger, this team to get better, and go from there. And he makes a statement. And you know what's great also? Is that he's one of the first GMs that really makes a move that starts to get other teams in the league to start thinking about what they need to do, right? So you look at that Mikko Rantanen trade that happened last week, right? Yeah. That really pushed people to start doing things. Maybe, I'm not saying that it had that much of an effect, but maybe Conroy seeing something like that as just a move that happened and said, let me see if I can swing something that could help our team with what we need.
They also had eyes on Morgan Frost too for a long time, right? They really didn't bring up.
Yeah, Farabee I think was just kind of I think it was just an opportunity to just get another guy fairly same age as Frost, fairly same productivity to get him going. And I think for Frost and Farabee, I think they probably feel pretty excited about coming over to Calgary. I know that players sometimes are like not thrilled about going from like an America team and have to fly, into Canada and do all that.
Morgan Frost, by the way, Canadian, and
Frost is Canadian. Farabee is from upstate New York, which essentially is Canada to me. But that's another discussion for another day. Overall, I say that Craig Conroy did a hell of a job, and I think Frost and Farabee, the difference in demeanor from where they're coming from to going to playing for Ryan Huska. Like that is going to be night and day for them.
They're going to love it. They're going to love it.
I think they're going to love the environment. I think they're going to love playing for this team. And what's great about this team this year, Kyle, is that they have all really just stuck together. They've stuck together. And it's a workman-like team. Everybody plays a role. And I think Frost and Farabee are going to find their roles fairly quickly. And I think they're going to work out very well in Calgary.
And that's the thing, like there's time with it too now, right? Like for Farabee, it's you get this extended period, right? And you're going to be like, I think it now brings up the question where if you look at the standings, right? Flames jumped back into a wild card spot last night. They are now 1 point back of the LA Kings, no games in hand. They are 3 back of Colorado. Flames have 2 games in hand on that side of it, right? This move, and also, too, the important thing, and we talked about it earlier this week about the Rantanen deal. Yeah. This happens before the 4 Nations, right?
Smart.
And it's so much time. You have basically 2 weeks, right?
Yeah,
it's a long period. And so, by the way, Farabee and Frost will be playing Saturday against Detroit. So they're going to make their debuts on Saturday. 2 things is that I believe they're going to probably play together. I think Huska, they're going to bring them in.
I think at first they're going to probably
play together. You guys, you know it. And I imagine maybe, I don't know if they because he's a left winger, right? Maybe Coronado goes there, right? Ooh. And maybe they try to make it'd be interesting. I kind of like it.
I like it, but also at least with obviously you look at where Coronado's coming off the big game that he had last night against Anaheim. I wouldn't move him right now.
Sure, fair enough.
I wouldn't move him for now. I'd let the chemistry roll where it's rolling right now.
And maybe this is a line where Coleman goes with Farabee. And
that's where I prefer. I prefer Coleman on a line with these two because Coleman plays a similar game to Farabee and Frost. I think that works. I would rather
I
see
do
that
too.
personally.
1,000. Yeah, me too.
Again,
I
we talked about this, Kyle. There is no first, second, third, fourth line on this team. It's constantly fluid, and Huska's going to have to do it again because now he's got 2 new players coming in.
minus the fourth line because the fourth line's a fourth line,
Minus the
right?
fourth line, that's exactly what you expect
Your
from
top
center.
9 is always
Top
fluctuating.
9 is constantly changing. So, like, that's where I think, you know, Huska's going to definitely have an interesting position to make. I don't think the Flames are practicing today. I could be wrong about that.
They might be. I imagine that
Because they are playing tomorrow, I think, correct?
They do play tomorrow night against the Red Wings.
It's the Red Wings. That's a big game, by the way.
Farabee and Frost are confirmed to be playing tomorrow night too.
Well, they're both healthy. I mean, it's not like that they're coming over and they need time
They're
to get
ready to go, right?
No, they need to come in and they need to get practice in today and tomorrow.
Yeah.
Just so that they're ready to go.
In terms of like just getting them in, right?
Yep.
It's just better to have Farabee play with Frost, right? Put Coleman alongside them. Like you said, he plays that similar game. Yep. And the best part about this is that you are at home. Like you have to go to Seattle for one game next week, but you're still home for the next 4 or 5 games, right?
Right.
So
We were talking about that. Yep.
It's really good in the sense that there's a lot of time still at home. You're going to get the break coming up very soon with the 4 Nations. I imagine those guys will be staying in Calgary to just like kind of get a grip of like, okay, like, you know, starting to figure things out a little bit. It's a really, really good break because all of a sudden after the break, massive playoff push coming up, right?
100%.
And they're going to be ready for it. They're going to be energetic, and it's perfect timing for it, right? Craig Button said it yesterday too. He made a really good point. He said this team automatically gained, right, 40 goals. Okay. These guys are 2 proven 20 goal scorers.
Yeah.
Right? So they're proven goal scorers. And for Button to say, like, these guys now, like, who are now fighting for a play, they're in a playoff spot, right? There's now a reason to be like, hey, let's get in, right? And who knows what can happen.
Be ambitious at this point, right? It's like
and that's the thing. So I think with this, it was such a masterclass because, and more or less just on the Calgary side of things, I don't think a lot of us are thinking about Philadelphia too much, except for Flyers fans.
Not from a bias standpoint, I am just from the fact that, like,
fair enough, yeah.
I mean, it's just, you know, like I think everybody in Devil's Twitter was saying that like when the news came out that like we essentially broke the Flyers. We didn't. But getting shut out back-to-back games and then doing this kind of feels like a panic move, but maybe not. I don't know.
But I mean, that's the thing. Like you essentially don't control where Kuzmenko goes in the offseason, right? We were never going to re-sign him, right?
And I wouldn't say never, but I think there was a very high chance that they were going to re-sign him.
I think there was a high percentage chance he wasn't coming back.
Yeah.
You know, we don't know what Pelletier's future was going to be like. So for him to only give up a second, realistically, get those 2, you make that deal any day of the week, right? You're playing NHL 24, 25, whatever.
I don't think you could make a deal like that.
I don't think it would let you, to be honest.
No, that's the thing. That's what makes like the video game so unrealistic is that we see trades like this and the Rantanen deal, and we say, and
there's no way they do it.
Where they'll do it, they'll put it in, and they'll be like, no, it's literally impossible. And I'm like,
right.
This is where that's my point. Like, it's like, of course it's impossible because it's not something you think about. This was not something that we were talking about. There was no rumor. There was no discussion. We talked about Kuzmenko to the extent of like looking for him to potentially get moved.
Yes.
But were we talking about Pelletier? No. Were we talking about giving up picks, which is, again, not the end of the world? Because, again, we talked about the point that we are beyond the point now of trying to get as many draft picks as humanly possible. Now you weaponize this stuff, and that's what Craig Conroy did. Now you're getting younger players, not necessarily Pelletier, but like you're getting younger players than what you had. Having them come here, you give them an opportunity to be on a team that helps them make a playoff push. And again, goes back to what I said. You help the team now, and you help the team moving forward. And that's the important thing here.
And they didn't give up their future for it, right? They, in my eyes,
I thought at first was going the other way. If you were going to give up,
listen, and I think I mentioned to you last night when this trade broke. Like, if the Devils' first round pick, which the Flames have, if that went, I'd be okay with that, because depending on how the Devils do in the playoffs this year, like that could very well be like you're very well pushing it closer to the second round.
Yeah.
Right. But to give up their own second round pick this year, if they make the playoffs, that's further along too.
And it's not the end of the world, because then essentially they are looking at it as, if we have a lower second round pick, we're essentially in the third round at that point.
Yeah, they might have a better second round pick depending on where Colorado finishes up this year. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If
I
the
know that
Flames
there's
finish
this
above them, right? Like, I mean,
Kyle, I want to get your real thoughts on this real quick. I know that there's such thing as like a cap guy, like the guy who's strictly like his job is to figure out how the cap space works. Do you think there's a guy that like focuses on the draft picks and the value of it? Or do you think it's just a collective like talking about it and then just making, do you know what I'm talking about? Do you get what I'm saying?
there's definitely internal
There's a cap guy for
discussions.
sure.
Oh yeah, there's a cap guy that absolutely, like every team will probably have that.
Look at the
right?
guy from the Hurricanes. He's been getting praised for days because everybody was saying, "Oh, like he basically was telling Tulski, like, no, you can make this deal and the salary will work."
Yeah,
So,
and it worked, right? So yeah, they definitely have that internally, right? You talk about the picks, like that's the thing, you don't really know, right? And there hasn't been a lot of talks about this year's draft class being all high and mighty either,
it's
right?
a very top heavy in the first round, and then
It
after that,
is. And what
it
people need
starts
to,
to table off.
yeah, it does start to table off for sure. What I want Flames fans to understand is that they had a phenomenal draft last year, and they made 10 selections last year, right? 3 additional picks more than what you would normally have, right? So to only lose a second here, which is still technically a lottery pick because you don't know how a player can turn out, right?
Yep.
And it all depends on your scouting and your observation. Like it's a phenomenal deal at the end of the day, right? And again, you're rewarding good behavior, right? Like you're rewarding. I know it sounds like a dog, but like you are.
Such a weird way to describe
it. But it is. But like, think about it though, right? Because the Flames have over promised, or they've gone overachieved. Excuse me, they have overachieved this year on the performance of how well they've been doing. They've certainly fast forwarded, but by doing this, Conroy's not risking anything in the future, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the beauty of it, right? And you have Farabee now. You can finally like have him play alongside some of these guys for a little bit in the future, right? And like they add Farabee to me adds more than what Pelletier was going to provide for this team.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what you wanted to see. It's a full-on upgrade to what Pelletier was going to give, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think the one thing that we haven't talked about, Neil, haven't even mentioned, the Flames have found their second line center. They also found they found him, and they found a guy who was actually pretty decent at the faceoff draw too.
And we were talking about, right? We were talking about potential fits in terms of the trade deadline. We talked about Dylan Cousins, which I think now it's fair to say that the Flames have no interest. Yeah, they're good. And it was a pipe dream from the start, personally, because I think there's other teams out there that can. I still think Buffalo and Vancouver are going to pull off a huge deal.
Soon. I think Columbus is now. I think Columbus, from what I'm
hearing, actually, I would love to see Columbus. And you know what? It wouldn't be like, rest in peace, Johnny Gaudreau, but it wouldn't be like that where, they had to like overpay to get him. I think that this would be just a really good move for Pettersson to come, and he would automatically be the guy in Columbus.
Yes.
Unless Monahan comes back and keeps playing well, then you have a debate there. But regardless, I think that the Flames made a move that just works so well for the right now and works so well moving forward. Like, that's what I love about the deal.
Yeah.
That it's not a rental. It's not we're getting a guy like a Nico Sturm for the next 20 games and then hopefully the playoffs. We're getting guys that I would be shocked if the Flames didn't keep both of these guys. I think that that's the plan. But I think that
we're going to find out in a couple of years, right?
We're going to find out for sure. I think that, like you said, trading for them now with so much time before the deadline and certainly time before the start of the Four Nations, it gives them an opportunity to really get acclimated to the team. You're starting to see this become more of a trend, Kyle, where teams are making deals earlier and earlier before the deadline because they realize it's not just the Four Nations break. It's the
Yeah.
fact that they want these guys to have as much chemistry as possible and have more time to get acclimated going into the playoffs. So Mikko Rantanen and Taylor Hall, they're already getting going early
Yeah.
on, and it's been about a week now.
You got
They
it.
are going to have a lot of time to bond with the team, to get going. Mikko Rantanen and Aho are going to be playing together in the Four Nations, unless they
You
pull
got it.
out, which wouldn't shock me. So to me, this move just makes sense. It
It
just makes
does.
sense. It makes sense for the Flames. I can't say it makes a ton of sense from Philly's perspective because they're talking about, from what I read from NBC Sports Philadelphia, they're talking about they've taken a step back, they're rebuilding, blah, blah, blah. So then why are you giving up on these two guys who are in their prime who can help you rebuild? I don't understand.
Young guys,
And
right?
you're
Like,
getting Pelletier. If you think that Pelletier is going to be on your team moving forward, okay, cool. But like Kuzmenko, like the dude is approaching his 30s and you're
yeah.
rebuilding. I don't see it. I don't get it. I'm not really
I'm no
I'm not,
and listen, like I'm no Flyers expert. The problem's Tortorella.
yeah.
It's Tortorella. It's a new age, right? We're in a new era where his style of hockey knowledge, right,
Doesn't
and
work.
his coaching experience
Don't
does
work.
not work.
It don't
It
work,
doesn't
homie.
work. No,
No,
it doesn't work anymore.
no. And you
Sorry.
see it, like if they don't have talent, they look like crap. Like honestly,
And that's
like
what, yeah. And like, so the
think
stupid
when
thing
he was
is
with the
like,
Rangers, Kyle, he had talent that he could drive home his system, but he had talent to back it up.
yeah. And
Like
that's the
same
only
thing.
way that got
Even
him through
Vancouver, to an extent, he had that going for him.
for a little bit. Yeah, they had
Columbus,
the Sedins at
Columbus. I
the
mean,
time.
shoot, man, he had what? Bobrovsky, Panarin, even Brandon Saad actually was doing
When they
pretty
went
decent.
and upset the Lightning all those years ago,
Yeah,
right?
but with the
So
Flyers, eh,
there's nothing to back it up, right? You need a younger coach who's going to get like that. Like we're just starting to see a new age, right? And a new age of coaches. Let me introduce you to Ryan Huska, right? He, I've said it
what about
all
the guy who
year.
coaches the U.S. national development team? That
Who's
coach
that?
from Denver,
Oh yeah, what's
the
his name?
junior coach.
I can't remember his name, but I know who you're talking about.
But you know what
Yeah,
I'm talking. Like he's a hot.
yeah,
Like I'm telling
he is
you,
a hawk
if the
commodity. Yeah,
Flyers get rid of Tortorella, I'm just saying, like in theory,
yeah.
go and get him. What do you got to lose?
Well, that's what and that's just it, right?
Young
There's like,
coach.
it's
Mm-hmm.
starting to become, it's eventually going to become a new age, right? Where,
Mm-hmm.
with Huska, like, I still, in my full heart, believe that Huska is the right man for this team. He is the coach for this team, and I think he fits it beautifully, right?
Yeah,
After this was done, my confidence for Craig Conroy skyrocketed. Like, I have
we're in a
full
good
belief.
place, Flames fans. We're in a good
I
place from a management and a coaching standpoint. I
I
believe.
have full belief, right, that the owner in Murray didn't have a lot of influence in this because
He had
he's
none.
letting Craig Conroy do his job.
He's letting him
And
cook.
exactly, like I have all the confidence in the world that and I think like and actually, you know what, Frank Seravalli mentioned it yesterday because he gave praise to Craig Conroy. This was masterclass patience, right?
Oh yeah,
They had their eyes on Frost. They maybe had different discussions, but they kept waiting and waiting and waiting for the right moment to strike. And
yeah.
this was a perfect moment to do it.
You are absolutely right. You are
Yeah.
absolutely right. And I think that you're starting to see that from GMs more and more that are just taking their time. So like I will say this, I will say this, that like I've seen people complain about their GMs when they desperately want them to make a move. I've seen it covering the Devils. I see it literally every day. I see it every day that Tom Fitzgerald needs to get a bottom six guy. He needs to get a top six winger to help Jack
Carolina
Campbell.
before Rantanen
Carol,
trade. Yeah.
right, Carolina. Oh, Carolina still needs goaltending, but I don't think that they're going to do that. But it could change.
Who knows?
Here's the thing, guys. Sometimes, actually, most of the time, the moves that really, really work and benefit are the ones that took time to get done. instead of just doing it for the sake of. A lot of these GMs don't just make moves for the sake of making them. I would argue that Briere probably made this move for the sake of doing it, but Conroy saw this opportunity, waited it out until he got a deal that worked in his favor,
Yeah.
and took advantage of a team that wanted to make a change. I think that we'll never know exactly how it all went down.
No.
I would argue to say that Conroy called Briere, expressed interest in probably at least just Frost.
Morgan Frost. Because I think he had his eyes on Frost because they needed
I think
a
he
center.
did. I think he did because he fits that position of
He fits
need
the
that we
bill.
were talking
He
about.
fit the bill for sure.
Right. And then I think he just waited it out. He wasn't gonna, go and make a big splash. He wasn't gonna just make a move for some random third line center that may not actually work out. And he got the deal that he wanted. Same thing with Carolina, right? They were all in on getting JT Miller. But after a while, when things just, the Canucks were kind of like on the fence about doing anything, Tulsky said, screw it. Let me go and talk to Colorado about Rantanen and see
They
if.
go talk to Sakic.
Let me go talk to Joe Sakic. And then it was like, great. He stayed
Yeah.
patient. The word is patience.
Yeah.
The big word is patience. This is why these teams are making these moves now. It's not necessarily that they're doing it before it's too late. They're being patient and realizing that some of these deals, it's easier to make them now than wait till you get to the deadline and you don't have as much time to get a deal like this done.
And also, if you're a playoff team, you have essentially a month before the dance begins, right?
And the Flames are one of the few teams that are a playoff team that has a pretty decent amount of cap space moving forward. That can make stuff work.
Two questions basically are kind of left here as we move forward after this trade.
Yep.
One, does this, in your mind, solidify the fact that this team is going to be in the postseason come April? Number one. We'll answer that.
You want me to answer that question?
Hold on.
Yeah. Keep going.
The other question that I had is with the other teams that are slow, like this now brings the question like Vancouver's probably going to move on from Pettersson, probably going to move on from Miller, right?
You think they'll move on from both of them? You think?
It's possible.
I think they're all of a sudden saying like, let's just trade Pettersson. I think they gave up on Miller. I think they legitimately are giving up on moving him. Which, if you're a team that wants JT Miller, now is the time for a lot less than you originally thought you could.
Because you saw exactly what the Flames were able to do, right?
You saw Miller's comments after like one of the recent games. I don't know if you saw in the locker room. They asked him like, "Oh, I have nothing to say." He's done. He's over this whole thing.
He's done. Okay, so then the other question I had was, are the Flames done making moves?
Oh, okay. So the first question was, do I think they are a playoff team now with this move?
Yeah.
Right, essentially. I think they were a playoff team before this move, personally. But I think now that they made this move, I think their chances are much higher.
I was on the fence because I know Vancouver was close.
I could understand that.
I was on the fence. Now I'm like, yeah, I think they can get in.
But here's the thing with Vancouver is that, well, yeah, it's still on the fence with them. They're going to move one of those two guys before the season ends. I don't see them waiting until the end of the year to make a deal. And I think once that happens, there's going to be some amount of talent that gets taken away from Vancouver. Because however you feel about JT Miller personality-wise, the dude can play. Dude can play. When he's on his game, he's dangerous. Pettersson, when he's on his game, super, super uber talented, right? So I think that Vancouver slowly, it's not that noticeable, but they're slowly starting to drop off the table a little bit. Calgary, what they're doing a great job of is they're right here. They're just stuck, not stuck, but they're rolling like right here. They're not going too high up. They're not going too low. They're staying the course. And this is not a move that I look at and say the GM is making an all-in push for the playoffs. No. If they still do not make the playoffs, I still like this move. I still very much like this move. But I think from a talent standpoint, I think Farabee and Frost are going to feel rejuvenated coming to a team that is closer to a playoff spot that can really make a push, find a new home, and go from there.
Yeah.
That's what I think. And I think there's motivation there for those guys to prove themselves, not just to the Flames, but to the entire league, that we're still very talented. And we're both 24, 25 years of age, that we shouldn't be
Bingo.
giving up on
You
this
got it.
quickly.
You got it. You
So
nailed it.
that's the answer to my first question, to your first question. Second question. No, I don't think the Flames are done. However, they are going to make a move that I think people may not expect, like they just did here.
Okay.
I think they end up getting another defenseman.
They have to.
Personally, I think they have
do
to.
it. They have
I'm
to.
not going to tell you who I think they're going to get, because at this point, with what we just saw with this, I have no idea who Craig Conroy is really looking at.
Yeah.
And I would say this. I don't know if the Flames have any interest, but I know that the Blackhawks want to try to get rid of Seth Jones. Now, he has that ridiculous, stupid contract.
I think you're pulling teeth with that one there.
But that's what
Yeah,
I'm saying. Like
too
that's
much.
just one of the, like, literally, I don't even like. I think that the Flames could be looking for a sixth or seventh defenseman. Truth be told, like, I don't think.
I think, like, because they want, by the time Ball gets back, right? It's only week to week. It's not too long, so he'll be good to go. Apparently, Connor Zari's on the ice next week. That's the shocking
That
part of all
shocked
this.
me.
It's unbelievable that he's back. So it's like,
Which
that's
tells you he's probably worked his ass off in rehab.
And also, too, it's like, okay, Zari, fair enough. He also gets time for the Four Nations break, right? So, for acquisitions, I think they look at they like the pairing of Jake Bean and Braden Bahal, and for the most part, they've been serviceable and it's been fine, right?
Serviceable is about as far as I would give it.
Yeah, and Miramonov, he's been on and off, right? And Ball coming back, he's going to improve that. I just think, they need like a fourth. They need somebody else, I think, rather than Miromanov at this point.
Are you leaning towards like physical defensive defenseman, or do you think that they need to add more of an offensive minded guy, in your opinion?
Whoever fits well beside Mackenzie Weegar.
Okay. See, that's what I was expecting you to kind of say something.
I
along
don't
those
know.
lines.
I don't know what it looks like, because I think Weegar brings the offensive presence.
Could be anybody.
They probably want somebody who can play a bit more defensively there. I wouldn't be surprised if they go defense, because they did what they did here: left winger for left winger, center for left winger, whatever. But it was 2 forwards swap.
Oh.
I don't think it will surprise me if Miromanov goes out the door and a pick, and the Flames get a true second line defenseman who can play with Mackenzie Weegar, right?
That would be great.
They might have their eyes on a guy, but I don't think they're done, because I don't.
Is there a guy that stands out to you, or is it just, or are you like in my boat where it's like I would not?
It could be anybody. It could be anybody.
Literally could be anybody.
The thing that sucks about Miromanov, sorry, I'll let you say your thing. The thing that sucks about Miromanov is that he was a part of that Noah Hannafin deal, and now it's worse.
Yeah,
so,
and that's tough.
It is tough, but he wanted out anyway. So
this does impact the Flames. As a matter of fact, it pretty much affects everybody. Elliot Friedman just put this out like 10 minutes ago. He said the NHL and NHLPA have released cap estimates for the next 3 seasons.
Ooh.
So, yep, next 3. So next year, 25-26. $95.5 million. That's where it'll be.
Where's that now? Sorry, where's that now?
90 something.
91?
91, I think. And
I just wanted to know, yeah.
The next 2 years are absurd, Kyle. The next 2 years are absurd.
Okay.
26-27. Do you want to guess how far we go up?
No.
104 million. We go up nearly $10 million. 10 million. You want to guess how far we go up in 27-28?
No.
$113.5 million. So first of all, I'll just say, because I want to say it on a podcast somewhere, in 2 years' time, Quinn Hughes will be a New Jersey Devil. Just based off of cap estimates, it's going to happen. That's what's going to happen. Number 2, someone's getting $20 million a year at some point.
When does this stop?
The CBA is going to break. I hate to say it, Kyle.
There's going to be a lockout.
A lockout is coming very soon.
Yeah, there'll be a lockout.
It's going to suck. It's going to suck like you can't believe. It's going to be bad. And that's what, like, going from 95 to 104, okay.
Yeah.
Like, But going from 104 to 113, where are we getting the revenue from? Where is it coming from now?
Edmonds trying to get every last little penny before he goes.
But
That's
like,
what he's doing.
if we're talking about, right? Like, here's a great example, Kyle. They literally today, like 20 minutes ago, the NHL finally put the Four Nations face-off merch for sale. Do you know how much one freaking jersey costs? Just one. Take a guess.
How much?
Take a guess.
Over like close to, it's probably over $200.
400.
Fuck you.
400. Ladies and gentlemen, go on eBay and find a knockoff in like 2 months, and you'll be happy. Like, honestly, like, where are we getting the money from? Because you're not even selling out the Four Nations, which is controlled by the NHL.
Yes.
Their promotion stinks, like, flat out. I don't know where it's coming from at this point. Because how are we going from 91 now to in 3 years' time, we're at 113? These are estimates, granted, but still. How do you estimate
It,
that?
it certainly sounds like that we're getting closer and closer to a lockout, right? Like that's just like,
I think
like
that's
at
Bettman.
what
I think
point?
Bettman knows that, and I think he's trying to leave before that happens.
Is it at what point? Like, what point? When do we stop? Right? Like, what's the
When is enough enough, right?
enough is enough, right? Like,
This is why the
it,
NFL makes it simple. Their CBAs, while they do break like every 4 years, they figure it out in very quick time. Everybody wins at the end of the day.
plus signing bonuses too, and like you get bonuses for like getting to this point. Oh, hey, by the way, you get 20 touchdowns, you get this amount or whatever, right? Like,
Yeah, something like that.
yeah. So that's what
So
I mean. Like that, there's some sort of incentives, but
I'm
that's
but like,
unfortunate.
you look at it from a fan, you get excited because you think like your team's gonna have like way more cap space. That is true, but at the same time, it's gonna mess teams up. It's gonna make the NHL a much more unfair, because if contending teams, right? So let's say like the Oilers and the Golden Knights and the Panthers and
They can splurge.
they can splurge, and it'll be unfair.
Yeah.
We will start seeing Los Angeles Dodgers type. Let's throw everything out. Let's throw
True.
so much money out
Top
there. It's
destination
ridiculous.
cities are going to start wreaking havoc because they're able to, because they can go out, right, and they can make it attractable, right? Like
Money
for
talks.
LA, money talks, man. LA, like if you look at Rantanen,
Calgary could
right?
become very popular to a lot of NHL top players if they have the money. I'm telling you.
True. The Flames would be like, that's the thing. Like money is going to be the biggest talking point, right? Like because there's going to be so much available. So yeah, that was a bit of a wild sequence last night. I thought we broke it down pretty well today. Credit to some of the guys too as well yesterday who were on it in Calgary time zone. This makes me so much more excited to go to the game in 2 weeks from
Oh
now because
yeah,
now I get to
can
see
you
these
not be?
guys and it's like holy shit. Um,
And we still have to set up for when Calgary comes to New Jersey, because that still hasn't. I don't
yeah,
think it's
that's
happened.
March. I think that's
It's
March, right?
March, yeah, which will be
Yeah.
very interesting because that's near the deadline as well. So I'm kind of curious to know.
Yeah.
Maybe Conroy and Fitzgerald talk again about something. Which at this point, I like they have a good relationship, but also both teams have kind of done enough with each other.
Yeah.
Like,
So this was it for Calgary. I think there's one more deal I can see in the future, and it's not going to be huge. It'll
the
probably be a rental.
I'll give you a name. I would have said this guy if this deal hadn't happened. But Brandon Saad has officially become a free agent today because
Too
his
many
contract.
wingers.
Yeah,
Too
well,
many
that's the
wingers.
thing. Like, if we didn't make this deal, I would have argued to say, well, you can ask. But I think he ends up in Edmonton probably. I think.
Wouldn't surprise me. Yeah. Wouldn't surprise me.
I know that there are
He can
four
sign
teams.
anywhere today.
Yeah,
Like he can
he
sign
literally can
anywhere.
go wherever he pleases, and I think that was smart that the Blues and Saad like worked out a deal
And
that
they
like
gave him that control.
because
Yeah.
the Blues don't want to have him getting paid $5+ million to play in the AHL.
Right.
And so they did him a good thing. I think they made the right. I think they made sure that everybody's cool. We're not going to have a argument here. Now he can go to a team that gives him a better chance to win, and
Yeah.
also gives him more playing time, because I think that was the big issue with him, that he wasn't getting a lot of playing time. So
Well, you go to Edmonton, man, it would work out pretty well. So it's made this listen, man, it's made this between now and postseason time very exciting to do this show now.
I just want more chaos.
I know, and we're gonna get it. We're gonna
Not
get
even
it.
from the Flames. Not even just from the Flames. Like, I want to come on here and we have another unreal like trade that has nothing to
Yeah.
do with the Flames, and then we talk about it. Because
So
like
yeah,
we talked about the Rantanen deal, and that was like fun to talk about. Just the fact
yeah,
that like holy crap, like I want more excitement. This is what us as hockey fans want. We want deals
pure
that we only can
chaos,
think about in our mind that could happen
and they do.
actually happen.
You got
Like
it.
I want Crosby to Colorado. Like
Yesterday.
I want it. I'm wanting it. Yeah.
Well, we're definitely gonna get more soon. It wouldn't shock me by the end of the weekend if Pedersen is dealt. I'll say
By the
that.
end of the week?
I think by the end of the weekend, I wouldn't be
Really?
surprised. I think there's something
This
brewing.
weekend?
I think there's something going on between Canucks and Blue Jackets. I think there's something happening.
Bro. Who would you all right,
Um,
really quick, who do you think what do you think the Blue Jackets would have to give up? Or what do you think like, yeah, what do you think they give up in a deal like that?
I think Cole Sillinger would be involved.
Thank God.
A first is definitely in there. It's gonna be like it might be similar. Take out the one player here. If you look at this Calgary deal, right? Take out maybe Farabee, and if you want to replace Frost with Pedersen, I think it's going to take 2 roster players and 2 picks.
That's how I look at it. I agree.
I
And
don't
I
know. That's just
and
ballparking.
why and you
But
know what's gonna happen because this happens in every big trade. The Blue Jackets are gonna get some random pick back.
maybe
It'll be like a fifth round pick in 2029 or some
or
garbage. Like
something stupid like
it's
that. Yeah.
always something. Like I was looking at like when we gave up the seventh round pick, I'm like, why did that have to be in the deal?
Who knows?
Like, I don't care that we traded it, but I'm also like, why was that a discussion?
Yeah. It
But
makes no sense. This
but
league
I
makes
want
no
more
sense.
chaos.
But
I want more big trades. I want to see it. I want to see JT Miller get dealt to the Rangers because it's like literally at this point, it's gonna happen. I
yeah,
think. I want to see Pedersen get dealt. I would be actually pumped, even as a Devils fan, who the Blue Jackets and Devils are in the same division. Him coming to the Metropolitan Division with the Blue Jackets is a fun thought to think about.
it would
From a,
be. It would be
I want to see so much. I want to see the. I don't know. I can't think.
everything.
I want everything. I want the Flames in the offseason to throw a shitload of money at Mikko Rantanen. Okay, I want that. It's not
That'd
going
be
to happen,
crazy.
but
That'd be crazy.
that'd be.
Money
I
talks,
would feel
man.
very.
Money talks.
My wallet would start crying if we gave him $14 million.
Money talks,
I
dude.
would be like, where is this money coming from?
Yeah.
No.
So schedule update. So we'll be
Good
back
win, by the
Monday.
way. Again, really good win by the good.
Great win
Okay, maybe
last
not
night.
good win, but a win nonetheless against the Ducks, a team you should win.
Thank you, Coronado.
Coronado is on a heater, ladies and gentlemen. Like we haven't even talked about the fact that Coronado for the last month
Yeah.
has just stepped up like you can't believe.
Yeah. It's been sensational, and it's only going to get better.
Did,
You feel
I
like
forgot. Did
Coronado.
Wolf start?
Young.
He did start last night. Right?
Wolf
Was it
started
Wolf?
last night. He struggled early, but he shut the
He gave up
fucking
one goal at the end of the day, though. So
So
like,
I was watching, they were scrambling in the third period, but Wolf was so comfortable. He shut the door on them last night.
he
So
gives
he
him
did
such
phenomenal.
confidence.
He did so well yesterday. A lot of the young guys are really pushing this team, and the young guys will continue to do that with Morgan Frost and
Yeah.
Joel Farabee. So scheduling update, and yeah, make
Oh,
sure to grade the trade. Put it out on socials last
I
night
think
as
we should
well.
give our grades too before we sign off.
Okay, both sides. I say A- for the Flames, and for the Flyers, I'll go C+.
I'll go A+ for the Flames just because
Wow,
of the now and moving forward, and I'll give the Flyers a C- because I don't get because
just don't get it.
I get it and I don't get it at the same time.
Sure. So scheduling
Yeah,
update, we'll be
schedule.
back Monday. We'll have instant reactions from seeing those guys tomorrow night against the Red Wings. Flames take on Detroit. They'll be in action on Saturday. We'll get full reactions for that on Monday. Thursday is a no-show. I'm flying out to Calgary on Thursday, so I will be 5,000 feet in the air that day. Won't be
Damn.
possible. And then the
Get on the
following,
Wi-Fi on the plane and we'll have a chat.
oh yeah, people will
Like
love that.
20 minutes.
I'm sure everybody's gonna love that.
Oh yeah.
Monday, that Monday, I'll be in Banff and I'll be able to,
Did you say
to
Fat
record
Monday?
on that Monday,
Oh, I
like
thought
the
you said
next
Fat
Monday.
Monday. I was like, what is Fat Monday to you?
I mean, it might be Fat Monday after the weekend I had in Banff.
Nice.
Yeah, so flying out Thursday, and then we'll do an episode though on Monday again.
Sure.
Being able to do it actually in Calgary, which is awesome.
That'll be
and
fun for him. Yeah.
And won't be available again on the Thursday because.
And then later on, about a month from now, I'll be in Nashville. So like I think I hope I'm leaving that Thursday, so it might be tough unless
whatever. I can always do it.
but still I could I could probably do an episode, maybe on that Friday. I don't know.
All good.
But I'll be in Nashville to check out the Devils against the Predators. Also hearing that Ryan O'Reilly might be on the trading block now.
There's so many things that can happen, man. Listen,
we're gonna get off. We're gonna get off, and Craig Conroy is gonna make another move.
Something's gonna happen. We're gonna get
we always do this. We always do this. We sign off, and then something happens, and then we're just like,
well, shit.
Well, shoot. Could have waited for the 10 more minutes, and we would have had something to talk about.
Excited to jump back though on Monday, guys. Morgan Frost and Joel Farabee, new members of the Calgary Flames, come Monday. So great emergency pod. Glad we had the chance to talk about it.
Glad we did. Yeah.
Under 24 hours later, and it was important to do. So we'll catch you all again on Monday for one episode for the next 2 weeks, but we'll get all the reactions from our new Flames coming into town tomorrow. And we'll look forward to that then. So see y'all on Monday and have a great weekend. See ya.
Later, y'all.